Great. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next Tax Stories episode. Today, my guest is very special, Thomas Hoppe. Thomas is head of indirect taxation at Schwarz Group. Maybe you know little supermarket chain. Um, Thomas is there for more than 10 years as head of indirect taxation. And before that, he was head of tax at Henkel for more than 12 years. But the main reason for having him on our show is just the uh, uh, the event that was happening in the last autumn in Singapore, where we met with Thomas, and I realized that he has a great initiative called TaxPunk, and we will talk quite a lot about this today. So, Thomas, welcome to the show, and would you like to mention anything else about yourself?
Yeah, Yanis, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation for today's podcast of Tax Stories. So that's really great that once we met a few months ago on the other side of the world, that we now sit more or less virtually here together in order to talk about what happens and what's going on in the tax environment. But first, I just have to correct you a little bit. I wasn't the head of tax of Henkel, unfortunately, only the head of VAT and expat taxation. So just for mentioning this and being correct in this space, because my former boss, Robert Risse, he was the head of tax of Henkel Group. But
Sure.
yes, now since more than 10 years, I'm here with Schwarz Group. And Schwarz Group, as you mentioned, is operating predominantly under the brand names Lidl and Kaufland all over Europe, and with Lidl a little bit in the US. So we are more or less a super retailer, a retail group, but nevertheless, we also expanded over the last years in other business areas like recycling and the IT business.
hmm And before we speak about retail and business and tax, I wanted to talk a little bit about your hobby, which I saw is triathlon, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit a new hobby, honestly said. So I started some years ago when my son started his triathlon career, and he is very successful and very ambitious. And so, as a father, and my wife, she also likes it now very much. We supported him, and we did some investments in bicycles and all this stuff. And finally, he convinced me to do it by myself. So last year, before we met in Singapore, I finished my first triathlon, but it was not the Ironman distance. So, not to make this quite clear, it was a short one, but I was so happy when I did the finish, cross the finish line of this triathlon. And I said, hey, why didn't I start earlier?
Mm, great. Um, by the way, I saw one Latvian professional cycler in competing in Lidl team, in Lidl professional cycling team. Uh, Your triathlon bike also looks very fancy. Do you set your aims at or targets in triathlon?
I have not really that much targets. I just want to finish, and I'm just doing it really to keep my fitness a little bit because I'm now 59 years old, and I think it's not too late to do something for the fitness. And what I've observed is that doing triathlon, because it consists of three different types of sports, and if you combine it, you really got a good fitness, and it's really uh, com- a good thing compared to what we have in our job on a daily basis, where predominantly we sit in front of a computer typing in some things or
Mm.
telephoning the whole day. And so I'm very, very happy that I can go swimming, running, and biking.
Mm-hmm. In Latvia, we think a lot how to make people more do sports, and because the statistic rate is very low comparably to the Western Europe. Do you have any tax benefits for having I don't know more sports among adults?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Honestly, I'm more the indirect tax guy, but I haven't heard of it. Otherwise, maybe I have to ask a colleague of mine who is more experienced in this direct tax area. Maybe he can help me. But honestly, no, Jan, I don't think that we have any benefits from a tax point of view. But I
Mm.
think everyone has to make the choice if this person wants to be active or not, because there is, of course, a lot of other opportunities to spend some time. So just watching TV or sitting in front of the internet and doing all these things. But this is a private choice everyone has to do. I prefer going outside, and during winter times, I prefer skiing, honestly said. That's really one of my great passions.
Mm, mm. I heard in Switzerland they have once per hour in addition to lunch for going to do some sports. So you don't have anything like that in Germany.
No, I'm not aware of it, but it might be that in some companies, maybe this is supported by the employer, that the employees get some additional time. Even here at Schwarz Group, we have the opportunity on our campus to go to a gym. We have gyms here where we have exclusively for free entrance to the gym, and they are very well prepared. So therefore, I think a lot of colleagues are using their time around lunch in order to do some exercise.
Mm, mm. Do you listen to some audio content when you cycle or run?
No, no, no. I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I don't run with any music or anything. The only thing is when I do indoor cycling, then I watch some videos.
Mm. And as always, our listeners are happy to hear about some book recommendations. Do you have any?
Well, I think I have to check. I think it's Taxtopia. That's really a great book. I really can recommend. Maybe you know the book. It's written by a tax consultant based in the UK, and he really goes a little bit in the details about how extremely rich persons are able to reduce their tax burden by using some beneficial structures and spreading around all of their real estate or other assets they have into specific special entities and so on. That's a very, very interesting book. So I really liked it.
Right. I even have I've read this book and I've even have one of my blogs about this. So it's really fascinating stuff. I can also recommend for those who are into some tech stories. Uh, but this TaxPunk, it's a podcast but with video in German. Tell us about the behind the scenes of the process. How do you select the guests? What is your uh, what your followers will learn from the interviews?
Yeah, so maybe, Yanis, I have to explain a little bit more what the history of TaxPunk is. As mentioned
Mm,
earlier, I'm really a fanatic skier. And when we had the first winter with Corona, the Germans were not allowed to enter Austria, where we have our favorite ski resorts. So therefore, I couldn't spend any time outside on the slopes. And I received in my inbox a few days before Christmas Day uh, an email with an annex, a PDF annex, that was listing up certain tax tools which can be used by companies or consultants in Germany predominantly. And so I read this email and I checked the list and I said, hey, this guy who sent out the email is talking about digitization, and then he sends out PDFs. This is a question, why does he do this? And so after New Year's Day, I called this guy, and so it's Stefan. He's the co-inventor of TaxPunk, and asked him exactly the question: hey, why are you talking about digitization of the tax environment and sending out some PDFs, which is really not digital? And so we touched base a little bit more and spent some time on discussing on this topic. And then the idea was born that we want to build up a text tool database which is published on the internet and regularly updated and so on and so on. And this was more or less the core competence of TaxPunk. TaxPunk.de is a website where you find predominantly a database of available text tools selected according to the text type they are covering, or if it is something that can be used for business intelligence and all the stuff in the text environment. And this was the starting point of TaxPunk. And then once we got very, very positive feedback about this, we said, okay, we want to go more into interaction with the people using TaxPunk, the whole text tech community, especially in the German-speaking region. And then we decided, okay, we want to make something similar like you, Janis, a podcast, but we decided to have a video podcast. And so we have started with our YouTube channel on TaxPunk.de, and we have currently around 25 episodes published. And firstly, we started with the selection of people that really do the tax tech, so the developers, so the tax tech companies. And so we invited some very, very famous people that are representing the tax tech development companies. And then we discussed a little bit on their view how the technology will influence the tax work and what technologies will increase a little bit more from an importance point of view and how they are interacting with their customers. And we did it for a certain while, and now currently we are changing the scope a little bit, and now we are focusing a little bit more on the users of tax technology. And we have invited some global head of taxes of multinational German-based companies, which are telling us what is their approach to the digitization of the tax environment, especially in multinational entities. But we also have now some episodes where we have also interviewed people working for the tax authorities that are very much in favor of the implementation of new technology, even on the side of the German tax authorities. And Germany, you know, is a federal state, so we consist of 16 Länder, and the tax authorities are in the responsibilities of the Länder. And therefore, we do not have a homogeneous and harmonized tax IT system on the side of the tax authorities. We have a little bit some fragmentation, and that makes it not that easy for the colleagues working for the tax authorities just to have a very, very harmonized approach within Germany. But I think they are doing pretty well, and they are developing it. And this was also tasks of some of our podcasts that we have made.
We both have interviewed Christian Kaiser from Siemens, but what is your favorite guest from all your episodes?
Oh, that's really, really hard to say because they come from a different point of view. But as you mentioned, Christian, he's a very smart guy and he's very experienced in all these areas. So he's not only a tech guy, he's very smart in the direct taxes, of course, and has decades of experience in this area, and he's also very active in multinational organizations like the IFA and so on. But we also had very, very good conversations with Ulrike Schramm, for example. She's the global head of tax of Continental. We also had the head of the German Tax Accountants Association, Professor Schwab. He also was pointing out his view on the development of the digitization and the type of educational aspects that we have to focus on, that we really empower people to use all the new technology in order to fulfill all the dramatically increasing requirements that companies, I think all over Europe or even all over the world, still have to fulfill in the near future.
Yeah, and I know you are also tasting beer at the end of episodes. So, would you share your favorite brands?
Yeah, you know, at the end of each episode, we have this test of the character of the guest, and Germany is one of the is a country where beer is really relevant, and in the different regions we have completely different types of beer which were produced in this area. And I'm coming originally from the western part of Germany, so in the Cologne area more or less, where we have this special type of Kölsch. That's really a special type of beer, and we are recording the TaxPunk talks in Munich. So, and Munich, of course, has complete different types of beer, and so each of our guests now has to select out of 3 different beers which one he wants to have, and then we can define what type of character the person has. But so it's a nice thing, and we have some statistics about how many people prefer the Bavarian beer or prefer the beer from other parts of Germany, but they are kept completely secret. We don't publish them.
Okay, yes, no advertisement. Uh, I wanted to ask also some questions about the web page itself, taxpunk.de. First of all, how did you make this fantastic photo with a small bike and a rocket engine blasting?
That was the marketing. That was the marketing department of PSP, which is the company my co-host Stefan is working for. So they developed the whole design of the web page, and that was really the initial idea, just to come up with something nobody really expects when he opens up a web page dealing with tax issues.
Mm-hmm. And would you guide us through the web page itself? What people can find there? The I see the page says there are currently around 300 tax technology solutions listed. What are the most important ones in your view?
So I think there are a lot of important aspects, but I think the most relevant tools we think we find in the area of the indirect taxes, especially in the area of VAT. And I think that's the biggest number of tax tools that we have listed for a specific tax type, because as an indirect tax guy, I think we are used to work with huge amounts of data, and we started a little bit earlier in in the interpretation of data and the analytics of data. And therefore, indirect tax people, I think, are very experienced in analyzing data and seeing any or finding anomalies, and especially coming from Germany, where we have this monthly VAT returns that have to be prepared, and in addition to the 12 monthly returns, we have 1 annual return, so it's 13 a year that you have to prepare for a company if you exceed a certain size. And therefore, there was a big pressure for VAT persons really to automate what they are doing, because they have only a very limited amount of time to extract the raw data out of their ERP system and then to manipulate the data in order to make them in alignment with the legal situations that we have, because unfortunately sometimes specific VAT regulations can't be implemented in a source system to the final extent what it means. So we often find situations where we have to make manual adjustments, because the ERP systems are sometimes not that flexible as we want them to have. But that's the current status, and that's the reason why we have really a lot of solutions in the area of VAT. But nevertheless, there is something more. We have now, so let's say, more global solutions. We have solutions, for example, for audit management. Yes, I think that's especially in larger organizations where we have a tax audit covering 3 or even 4 fiscal years with hundreds or even thousands of requests coming from the tax authorities. And for me, it is something a larger company really needs if they are under audit, that they need to have an audit management tool implemented in their organization in order to reduce the time spent just on organizational things related to an audit, because there are enough difficult tax questions that have to be solved. So therefore, from a resource assignment point of view, I think it makes sense to reduce the administrative burden as much as possible. And in a best case, even the tax auditors have the same point of view and agree in using such a web-based audit management tool.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen any solutions also regarding tax disputes? Any automation?
No. No, that's currently not, as far as I know, available, especially in the German-speaking region. I think this is something which will come up later, I'm convinced, by using the full capability of generative AI, which is now a hot topic since more than a year. It's, I would say, 15 or 16 months since ChatGPT 3.5 was really published. And this is, from my perspective, really a game changer. Yeah, this technology and the development over the last months, which was so fast, I think that within a short period of time, we will see new technology tools that will really help you to do all the tax disputes.
Mm-hmm. And you said you had the guests from tax authorities as well. Have they started using some of these advanced technologies as well?
Yeah, so so within the tax authorities of Germany, there is a very specific group of persons that is focusing on the use of business intelligence solutions. So they are developing really great dashboards and analytics based on Power BI, the Microsoft tool Power BI. And they are really doing pretty well there in doing the analytics and anomaly researches of huge amounts of data. And what I've been told is that they are also now trying to put some generative AI into their solutions that they are currently having in place, especially in the area of the search for tax deductions which are not in line with law, in order that they really want to go into the documents and read the documents via the generative AI and then interpret the content or the text on the documents in order to verify whether the costs are tax deductible or not.
Mm-hmm. And do you see tax authorities plan to use also some blockchain solutions, or that's?
So I think blockchain is definitely a very interesting technology, but I have not really seen any solution outside of cryptocurrencies where this is really infecting our daily lives and our daily practices. So maybe it will come. I could imagine that blockchain technology would be very helpful, especially in the area of customs. So I'm not only the head of indirect tax, I'm also heading the customs function of Schwarz Group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with all the new reporting requirements that we are having in the EU related to the origin of our products and the origin of the ingredients of the products, or if we now go to the CBAM regulation, which is now in place and which also requires a huge amount of new reportings to the authorities. And then we really need to deep dive into the details. Where do the spare parts of our products come from? Or when we see we buy finally or fully produced good, where was the energy produced for that was used in the production process? Was it green energy or was it fossil energy? Something like this. This is something we have to answer at least starting in 2025 for the products when the lump sum calculation no longer is allowed to do in the CBAM context. And this would be a great area where blockchain technology could be used, but I can't really see it that this is then available for a larger amount of people or in a larger amount of industries.
I heard some US professors saying that blockchain could be used for VAT fraud prevention.
I completely agree. I think that could be the case, but the requirements that you really have a full coverage of all transactions, especially in risky areas, that is, I think, something which will take a significant amount of time. So I can't really estimate when something like this will really be alive or going live.
But how do you get all this information about new solutions? Do they already everybody knows that that you are the guy who collects it, or you find it yourself?
So it's a mixture. So we are now online with TaxPunk more or less in 3 years, and now we have a certain level that people realize that TaxPunk is there, and some tax tech companies really are contacting us and say, hey, we have a new solution, we would like to have it listed on TaxPunk. Sometimes we got some new solutions, especially from outside of Germany, by just checking the internet or sometimes on LinkedIn or similar social media, we got ideas that something is there. But honestly, most of the new solutions, the people are really contacting us in order to do a listing on our website.
All right. And this ChatGPT plugins, how do you see this developing and helping the tax practices? Are they something that you use in your daily work?
So the generative AI, I think, might have a significant impact on how we work in the near future. I think at the current stage, we have some open questions because, we as tax people, if we go to our core businesses, we always want to have the 100% correct solution. That means generative AI only can give you 100 correct answers if the content that was used for training the generative AI is really reliable, and if this is really correct. And this is, I think, the open aspect that has to be solved in the future. And if you have a 100% reliable data input into a large language model, then if the prompting is correct, you get very, very helpful information and answers to tax questions. At the current stage, I would say we are in the level that generative AI can help us with a lot of administrative things. So it can draft, for example, emails to my clients. Or it can create newsletters. Yeah, and it really can help you to support you in your research function. If you have specific questions, then it's very, very useful at the moment. But what we currently see in Germany and maybe even outside of Germany, but I'm not that quite sure how it works outside, is that we now have first solutions published where we have the combination of the legal texts and reliable text commentaries or text journal content. And this is then in a specific secured environment. And there we see that you can ask specific questions to the generative AI solution, and we have an answer with a reference to the source of information. And this is, of course, the strength of these specific solutions, because if you use ChatGPT or Google Gemini or something similar, you get an answer, but normally it will not reference to where the information, the answer is based on, is coming from. And this is, of course, something on the long run where we as tax people cannot live with such a solution. Yeah, otherwise we have this hallucination risk, and I think nobody would accept that we just give an answer which sounds pretty well, but is completely wrong. And therefore, I think these specific solutions, which are based only on reliable content, will be, at least for the next 2 or 3 years, the benchmark for tax tech using generative AI.
So to summarize what you're saying, is AI currently just a buzzword, or is this already daily practice?
So I can speak for myself and a little bit for my bubble. I think this is really part of our daily practice now, and it's developing on a weekly basis, more or less. So I think, and maybe we can talk about it, that WTS, together with a partner, PSP, is now setting up an environment which is supported by Schwarz Group, by our digital division, that we build up a secure space where we have all the reliable tax information available, and where you really can prompt your specific company related questions without having the risk that these prompts and this company information will be forwarded to somewhere in the internet. Yeah, so this is really something which is currently under construction, and hopefully it will be successful implemented within the next months, and so that we really can offer a solution for tax people, for tax consultants, and of course for companies that really want to have a source of information which they can count on and which is completely correct, and that they also can combine these content with an environment, with a digital environment, where they can be assured that their data will not be shared with someone else who is not the addressee of this information.
Mm-hmm. Do you see anything happening outside, maybe within Big Four, that they have already advanced in this direction?
So what I've read is that I think more or less all of the Big Four have partnered with some of the major US companies, and they are investing billions of dollars and euros into these partnerships. What I think is the case is that this is a global investment budget, and finally we have to look and see what is really the benefit for the individual countries or the partner firms of the Big Fours in the different countries, what will be the impact and how they will go to market in their different countries with the solutions. So I've seen, for example, something from KPMG Germany called Kaishet, That's also a very advanced solution. PwC is also partnering and giving solutions together with Huawei that also works. But honestly, I have not gone too much into the details of these solutions because we are currently now focusing on the WTS PSP solution.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of WTS, I know you recently participated in WTS tax technology conference in Germany. What were your takeaways there from the conference?
Yeah, this conference was really a one-day conference, focusing only on AI and the impact of AI in the tax environment. And so we have seen some of the first use cases that are really implemented with clients of WTS. And a very interesting use case was in the area of transfer pricing. So there is a solution where the preparation of the transfer pricing documentation, the master file and the local file in different languages was supported by an AI solution. And another use case also in the area of transfer pricing was the support of artificial intelligence for the preparation of the transfer matrix. Which is the documentation of each individual single transaction of related companies cross-border. And this is, of course, a very time-consuming effort. All the companies, especially the multinationals, have to do on an annual basis. And there can be hundreds, thousands, or even millions of transactions in an intercompany environment, and they need to be clustered and documented and sorted for the tax authorities. And there we see significant progress by the use of artificial intelligence to produce these type of documentations.
Great to hear. So those who want to get more information about all the fancy technology tools in taxation, so don't forget to check taxpunk.de. But let's look into the future a little bit. How the life of tax in-house and tax advisor could look like, let's say, in 2-3 years.
Yeah, Yanis, that's something we also talked about. So I think that's really looking a little bit into the glass bowl. But there are certain trends that maybe will come up and maybe will affect our daily lives. And beside my sports, I also like traveling, and therefore I'm a little bit in the situation that I also would like to travel to the future. And therefore, I just set up a series of articles in German tax journals called Taxpeditions. So that means that I go into fictitious countries, and they have some nice names like Taxonia, Vatistan, or Duty Land, or Excise Land. And one other, which is going to be published soon, is Genesia. And this is also, and then I travel into these countries, and they are much more advanced than Europe in most of the tech issues. And then I see what is the impact on the daily lives of the taxpayers and the tax authorities by living in an environment where, let's say, fully real-time reporting is still alive since some years. And what is the impact on the relation between taxpayers and tax authorities, for example? Or what is the impact on the change of the type how a tax audit will be made in these countries. And this is, for me, a good idea, and to get the feedback and to start a discussion with peers about what really will be the impact. So do we really need tax consultants in 5 years if all the fully transparent real-time reporting will be implemented everywhere? And what do we still need some transfer pricing if all the transactions are fully transparent to all the tax authorities, so that there is not really a doubt about some profit allocation and all these things, yeah? And this is something I really like to do, and so there are so many ideas. I was in Switzerland a few weeks ago, and I just discussed with some tax experts from Switzerland about the future direction and the future development, and they said, hey, that's such a good idea. So we also can write a story about the lump sum tax calculation they have somewhere in Switzerland, I've been told. And yeah, maybe this is also another idea for a new episode of the Taxpeditions.
Right. It's exciting, but considering all your fantasies, and I'm also a big fan of, let's say, Back to the Future, because then you start slowly to get something from that in your real life. But from your Taxpeditions, what will be the most uh, possible things we would be doing or using in the future?
So, I'm a tax guy, I am an indirect tax guy, and I'm doing it now since more than 30 years. And therefore, of course, I really liked to go to Vatistan. So, because in Vatistan, VAT is the dominant type of tax. And what they are doing there is that is a little bit based on the experience that we have managed in Europe over the last 5 years, that we have a increase of the speed of the change of tax rates. And I really expect that this direction will go further in the next years, that we have much more tax rates available. So each member state has now more or less full flexibility of the number of tax rates and the tax rate itself. And I think we need much more technology in order to enable the countries to be so flexible in their VAT rates. So we need a strong connection between the ERP systems, where the tax rate determination for the products and services that were sold and provided are listed. And currently, it's really a very, very hard work to have a tax rate change implemented in all the ERP systems. And this is something where we really need to get much more speed on in order to follow up with the rapid changes of the rates, which we see in all the member states of the EU and even outside of the EU. So I think this is the most concrete thing that I have seen in my Taxpeditions, because in Vatistan they have solved it pretty easy, because they have a tax engine as a service, which is provided by the tax authorities, and all the companies need to have a direct connection of their ERP systems to the tax engine of the tax authorities, and all the products have a unique identification number, and even services are now subject to a unique identification number, and so the tax authorities can change the tax rates from one day to another, and they are then automatically distributed into the ERP systems of all the taxpayers in the country. And this is really something, if we come to this in real life, I think then we have solved a lot of problems.
Great. And I'm a strong believer that the biggest problem of why VAT fraud is happening is because of the system, not so much of the people, because the system allows it to happen. Is VAT fraud still in Vatistan?
No, VAT fraud in Vatistan is nearly completely solved. And one of the aspects why it is solved is that they got rid of cash. I think a lot of things are really based or fraud is really in the areas where we have a lot of cash in the system. And there is another thing that they also have implemented something or they're using sometimes for specific areas expanded reverse charge system.
Mm. It's strange to hear these ideas from Germany because Germany is country where cash is the king. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
definitely, definitely.
how
And
Vatistan got rid of cash.
well, they made it so interesting not to use cash because it's so fast to use certain payment apps and so on. And but I think in your home country you're much more developed in this area than we are here in Germany. But well, honestly, a little bit influenced by the Baltic countries is my Taxpedition to Vatistan. That's definitely something you can be
Great.
sure of.
Great to hear. I truly believe that the cash will be reduced not by force but by beneficial use of technologies, some easy use of applications, and it's like Netflix uh, was popular just because it's easy to use, and
Yeah.
so. Uh, the same should be with the cash and with taxation in general, maybe.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it's a matter only of some decades, and then the relevance of cash will significantly reduce, even in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that in Latvia some companies were uh, carrying in trucks cash from Czech Republic or something like that. So it's scary that
Okay.
these things are still happening in such a scale. Yeah. But where people can read about your taxpeditions.
Okay, so the first four episodes were published on a text journal called Rethinking Tax in Germany. Unfortunately, it's only available in German, but we are working on an alternative publish way, and so I will keep you updated if it is
Okay.
available also in other languages.
But Google Translation works pretty well, so of course
Okay.
not so great, but doable. Uh, how might future retail shopping of groceries look like? Do you imagine that as well?
Oh, yeah, I'm working for the largest retail group in Europe, but I'm not really a retail specialist. I'm really focusing on VAT. But if you look a little bit around, you see that there are first stores without any employees, without cash desks, so that everything is managed via an app or via sensors or video cameras, what you take out of the store. I would say that this direction will be the direction of the future, that we will see more stores with more automation and less people sitting behind cash decks and collecting the money from the customers. I think this will be the case, and so let's see what the development really will be. And on the other hand, I expect that we will get any more regional products into the stores. So not having them shipped from the other end of the world to be sold for a relatively low price. I expect that this will be subject a little bit to change, that you will get more of the local and regional products in the stores, even from the bigger chains.
Mhm. And do you see that taxes impact purchasing habits of people?
I think especially the changes in VAT rates, that this will have a significant impact. I think and that governments can influence the purchasing habits by assigning specific VAT rates to specific products. For example, if you have alcoholics or tobacco or something like this subject to a higher VAT rate, I think this will have an impact on the purchasing habits, that people maybe will not purchase these types of products in the same amount as they do it earlier. And on the other hand, of course, if you have healthy products, you can reduce the VAT rates. So I think, yes, there will be a direct impact assisted by the VAT and excise tax rates, which we also see. So we have a lot of discussions for sugar tax. We have a lot of discussions on fat tax and all these things. And this will have a significant impact, I think.
Mm-hmm. I remember it's quite popular view among VAT professors that the reduction of VAT stays with the retail department. It doesn't transfer to the consumer. Is it really so?
That's something I can't really see that much. The only or one practical experience was the temporary reduction of the VAT rates in Germany during the Corona crisis. From the standard rate was reduced from 19 to 16%, and we've seen in the retail sector, I think, a reduction of the selling prices. I do not exactly know if this was also the case in other areas, like if you purchase cars or furniture or something like this. But we really saw it, that there was a price reduction based on the reduction of the VAT rate. So yeah, I think there is an impact.
Mhm. What is the most challenging part of working as an in-house for such a multinational company?
It's the most challenging thing is especially to get aware of the most relevant information that has impact on the indirect tax position of a company. So you need to be aware of the chain of supply chain changes. You need to be aware of systems that are going to be set up that have an impact on the VAT position and the calculation of VAT. This is really the most challenging part, that you get the information at the right time, at the right place.
Mm-hmm. And in that context, what would be your advice to external advisors? What should they do to serve their clients better?
So I think an external advisor would be working very, very well if the external advisor makes himself or herself familiar with the business transactions of the client. I think understanding how the business works will help significantly to give the best tax advice as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you're working in so many countries. Can you compare the tax environments and tax authorities? Which countries are the easiest to work in?
That's really a difficult question to answer. So I think As a German, we have very good experience of working with German tax auditors, so that's pretty easy for us. Although they are definitely challenging sometimes, but we know how it works. If you look to other countries, especially in Eastern Europe, the culture is slightly different, and the way how the negotiations and the tax audits work in these countries is a little bit different than how it is managed in Germany or in Austria. I used to work in Austria for Henkel, so therefore I have a little bit an idea of how it works in Austria. So that's a different thing, and of course sometimes it's also a language problem. Yeah. So if you can discuss with the auditors in your mother language or the mother language of both, then it's a different approach than if you have to use something like English or a translator, and that makes it hard. But honestly, I can't say what are the easiest countries or what are the most difficult countries. I think each country has its challenges, and so that's one of the big benefits we have at Schwarz Group, that we have tax departments locally in each and every country we are working on. And so we heavily rely always on the local tax teams that we have there. And of course, we discuss with them, but they are really the first contact person for the tax authorities in the specific countries.
Right. And finally, my last question is related to tax stories. Is there a tax story in your mind that you probably would like to share? Maybe I don't know, the most interesting tax issue you've handled so far, or something from books or movies that pops up into your mind.
Oh, I'm not really prepared for this type of question, Janis. I have to think about, but for some decades I was responsible for payroll taxes in some German companies, and payroll tax was very interesting, especially when it came to the football World Cup in Germany 2006, and then we had the discussion: what is the tax treatment of tickets that were given to you as a present by your company. And that was really one of the most interesting aspects I really can remember, although it's now 18 years ago, of how we managed to come to a flat tax of 30% for such benefits in kind. And that was really very, very interesting time because this was absolutely new at this time for German payroll tax issues to set up such a flat tax. And that was very, very interesting time.
Great, great to hear. And my last question to you is like I have to every guest on a philosophical note. What is your version of meaning of life? Why do we do what we do?
So that's really philosophic question.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if I'm the right person to answer this, but honestly, I think the most relevant thing in my personal life is my family and living with a family, and let's say try to live in a way that even my children and my grandchildren, although I don't have them at the moment, still have a great place to live on Earth and in our country and in the neighboring countries. And this is really something I'm eager to see how we as mankind can manage this.
Great, great. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Hoppe, it's been a pleasure, and it's very educational, and hope the listeners will enjoy your podcast and also your webpage too. So thank you for your time, and it's been a great time. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Janis. See you hopefully next time in person again.
Hopefully, yes. Thank you.